Good evening, Warriors, and welcome into another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, finally back in studio, is Robert Hagan. It's been a few weeks, but we are here.
Yeah, it's been really crazy that you and I have been gone here, back here. So it's nice to be back in studio, at least for 1 week.
1 week. We will make it 1 week before we are back, at home as full-on schedules mess with us next week. We'll talk about that in 1 second. But real quick, thank you so much for Eric Watkins a couple weeks ago sitting in for Robert Hagan. We tried our best to have it still in studio that week. I came down.
Right.
We tested stuff. We still need the new mixer here. But the computer, we do the soundboard from this Apple computer over here to our left, which right now has Game 7 going on. But that's, the sound works. I tested YouTube. I tested the sound stuff. Everything was sending it to the board 2 weeks ago. StreamYard refused. So we weren't able to do it. I had this whole elaborate thing figured out of how to still be able to make this work. And if that happened, it would really make things a lot more interesting for us as far as being a bit more capable to have guests on, because then they could just pop on there. We could make things work. That did not work, so I had to run home real quick, and then we did it from studio, but I appreciate Eric for getting on there. RIP my main monitor that I broke in the process.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of it. I went back and listened to the show and watched the show because you told me I needed to vote and all that, and you kept talking about your monitor. So you never did explain in your process of moving and setting up the studio.
So I bought a water bottle so I could drink water while I was doing the show. I'm trying to stay hydrated and stuff. I'm back to kickstarts and caffeine because water is bad for you, apparently. I set the water bottle down, bumped it at some point, didn't think anything of it, turned on the computer, and the water bottle hit the monitor and it broke. Oh, no. So the right side of my monitor was just dead.
Yeah, I got to start figuring things out because Denise is going to get to start working from home a little bit with her job. And so I got to figure out how I'm going to set up monitors for her and how I'm going to change the office a little bit to let her work in there and stuff. So it's going to be a mess.
Oh yeah, always. And then of course last week David Doofenberg hopped on to cover for me, as I did not realize my son. I knew he had 2 concerts on Monday and Tuesday, but I thought it was the same concert.
Right.
So I was like, all right, just show up Monday and then it'll be fine. He's like, no, it's a different concert, and I have a solo on Tuesday. So not only are they 2 different things, but the more important one was during the show. So I had to be a good parent and go check out his solo, and he did a really, really good job, and that was great. So I appreciate David for hopping on kind of last minute for that. But we are back, the 2 of us in studio on our normal times. As mentioned, next week we will not be in studio. And it'll not be our normal time, as Halloween lands right on Tuesday night. We both, you have grandkids.
Yep.
My kids are still into the trick-or-treating spirit. So we will not have our normal show on Halloween, but we're not going to leave you hanging. We're not going to skip a week. We try not to. Usually the World Series is the only week that really pushes us to cancel completely. So we are going to do a show Monday night next week. Shortly after Monday Night Football, we'll do a 1-hour kind of compact version of the show to talk about Monday Night Football, prep everyone for what we think the power rankings are going to look like, maybe reveal some of the individual power rankings as I get them in, because, again, everyone has been so good about getting them in shortly after Monday Night Football. So that'll be a fun discussion, I think, as the power rankings come together, and then you can see it all in one big glob on Tuesday when we post them.
And you and I talked about maybe we get Harry and Eric to drop in, or even Chris to drop in for a few minutes, and we have kind of a live.
It'll be a more laid back show, probably a more NFL focused. We'll still do our local picks. Probably at the end of the show. A World Series will be going on. I believe even that day it has a game.
Monday,
yeah. Game 3 will be on Monday, so we'll be able to talk about that as well. So, just 1 hour of jam-packed talk, and we'll see if we can fit it all in an hour. And if we go a little long, we go a little long. It's just kind of a loosey-goosey show. Speaking of baseball, Game 7 is going on right now with the Phillies and the Diamondbacks tied at 1 right now in the top of the 4th inning. I was shocked when they brought up the stat just a minute ago that the Phillies had never been in a Game 7 ever in the history of their franchise, which, I mean, they've been around for a very long time, and they've had some success as well. Other sports going on. It's a jam-packed day. Conference USA has basically become the new MAC. They're the conference that has the Tuesday night games. New Mexico State is taking on Louisiana Tech. I'll get those scores here in a second. And Liberty taking on Western Kentucky. It's the NBA opening night, so their season gets going. The Nuggets, the defending champions, are beating the Lakers 78-69 in the third quarter. And in about an hour, the Suns will take on the Warriors. It's a full slate of NHL, including the Kraken in action.
I was telling you, I started watching the Maple Leafs and the Capitals start playing, and Ovechkin had 7 shots on goal just in the first period.
Goodness.
Didn't make any, and they were down 1-0.
Yeah. Real quick, New Mexico State is leading Louisiana Tech 17-16 in the third quarter, and it is halftime. Liberty, trying to stay undefeated, has a 14-10 lead over Western Kentucky. Those were 2 games I wanted to pick for our pick'ems, but they happened before our show, and it would just get a bit too complicated. On today's show, we will talk about Major League Baseball, get you set for the World Series that starts on Friday. We will discuss who had the more impressive victory last week, Baltimore or Philadelphia. Could be an interesting discussion, and none of us are homers at all for that discussion, so it should be good. I don't know if Robert Taylor is here yet or if he will be here at the bottom of the hour, but we will say good things about his Kansas City Chiefs team, so hopefully he misses that spot and then gets mad because we never talk about his team.
He was excited when I shared our power rankings.
Yeah,
like,
they did end
you
up
guys always
number
finally,
1.
You guys finally figured it out.
Right.
Like, really?
We will kind of look at where the number 1 pick is going right now as we're getting closer and closer to halfway through the year. I mean, we always focus on the top of a power rankings, but, draft order is very important. And then I brought up this topic. I don't even know where you land on it yet, so I don't want to know yet. Okay. But right near the 7:00 hour, just before, we are going to talk about Caleb Williams and my belief that maybe you should not take him first overall. Our sports-related draft is, of course, Halloween-related. It is the best sports-related Halloween costume ideas. So that'll be at the top of the hour. Of course, we'll hit all the local events. LC has a ton of stuff going on. We will dissect the power rankings in the second hour, get to our picks, and so much more. But we start this week like we do most weeks. And let's talk about Monday Night Football. And it went with the rest of the week, an upset. Minnesota upsets San Francisco 49ers, have now lost back-to-back games. Your thoughts on that one?
I think the big thing in listening to all the talking heads today is I was at home trying to recover from my dental procedure today, but all the talking heads was all about Deebo Samuel. And
they were what?
Yeah, a lot of them were talking about him being gone. A few and not being part of this game.
You listen to different talking heads than I listen to. Then
we do. But yes, he is important for that team. But you also have Christian McCaffrey, and Minnesota just game planned, I think, a lot more differently than what they normally do. And they held McCaffrey 45 yards, but
they also held him to 51 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. He was totally shut down.
Yeah, so it's not the numbers he put up, but you look at overall, would many of those plays been different with Deebo being in there running?
Well, of course.
I think a little bit, but not a ton. I mean, Kittle looked decent. I mean, he got his catches all there. I think this game kind of, for me, boils down to really one play, and it's the one play everybody keeps replaying over and over, and that was Addison's catch with Ward cutting in front of him, and Ward having it in his hand, and Addison just pulls that thing away and takes it in for the late score there in the first half. I think that's where that game boils down to.
It changed the complete complexity of the game. 49ers had trailed the entire time, but they cut it to just a few points. What was it, 12-7 at that point?
Yeah,
somewhere silly. Before the catch for Minnesota, maybe it was 13.
I think it was 17-13.
I think it was 10-7.
It was something
because then they scored the touchdown, then they missed the extra point. That's where my math was getting a little bit off. So it was just 10-7. Just a minute some to go in the first half, and then Addison takes an interception, turns it into a touchdown. Our buddy Jesse Knight, who has been part of the show a couple of times, and I chat with him all the time. He's one of the few people that are not part of the power rankings, but always bug me about our power rankings, was upset that the 49ers blitzed on that play and put themselves in that situation. He thought that was the perfect time for prevent defense. Did not work. And yeah, like Eric says, it was primetime Kirk did not show up. It was his normal time Kirk. He looked really good. He does throw the one interception. Could have been two on that play. But honestly, it wasn't even Brock Purdy I thought was the issue either. He does throw the two interceptions late. Both of them looked really, really bad. But it was just, I think we've overreacted to the start of the season for the Vikings, and now they have turned the ship. They're 3-4. They finally get a win at home, which was shocking that they started 0-3. And, this became a good heavyweight fight of two teams that could possibly make the playoffs. The Vikings are a game out of a wild card spot right now. So while it is surprising that the 49ers have now lost back-to-back games after we were wondering, could they run the table? And obviously they could not. I'm not worried about that team.
I'm not either. And I even still took them, and you saw that. I took them to win their division this year again and have them higher up. I think the biggest props for Kirk Cousins and what he said in his game, yes, he 378 yards and all that. I think it boils down to what he talked about his offensive line. That offensive line looked really good last night.
0 sacks.
And that's the thing. 45 pressures, 6 QB hits, 0 sacks for that team. So what they did to keep Kirk Cousins upright and on prime time, that's off to that team and what coach did for him.
Big breakout game for Jordan Addison, as you said, gets the 2 touchdowns. TJ Hawkinson was phenomenal. For those that got to celebrate on Sunday, happy Tight Ends Day on Sunday. Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce definitely celebrated Tight Ends Day. And Hawkinson, a day later, did a really good job, 11 catches, 86 yards. Again, the injuries, every team's going to deal with them. The 49ers going through theirs. McCaffrey was questionable coming in, was not quite 100%, but he still scored twice. And he still had 100 yards almost on the all-purpose yards. So he was still fine. I'm not worried about that. Obviously, Deebo Samuel changes a lot of things offensively, so you definitely need him there. But without him, San Francisco a little bit one-dimensional with the passing game and going to CMC. Nobody else really able to run the ball.
And the big thing was also I was listening. I want to say it was Around the Horn today, and the one guy on there from Around the Horn was talking about what Brock Purdy was looking like. And dude, he's only played in what now? How many total games has he played? 16 games total. And that's all he has played in, 16 total games. And you're already thinking that he is not the answer for their thing. And it's too early.
People need to calm down. Everyone threw off Jared Goff. He's nothing, and he's had a much better year. He definitely struggled against a certain Baltimore Ravens defense on Sunday, but he has been really good. There's been a couple other quarterbacks that have turned things around. Kirk Cousins, still is not coming up with the big time games, but he's barely been around a year.
So I just looked it up. 16 total games. He's thrown for 3,000 yards, averaging 8.4 with 24 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
I think a lot of people are trying to bounce back. Somebody like Nick Wright is the perfect example, because there were people that went over the top with Brock Purdy. Oh, he could be an MVP this year. It's like he never was really going to be in the MVP candidacy. The only reason people were bringing that up because he was the quarterback of the team that they had on the top of their power ranking. So it has to be a quarterback. So it has to be Purdy. Purdy's the 8th best player on his team at best. at best. And that's okay because he was the last pick of his draft class. And he is doing exactly what he needed to. Unfortunately, his two mistakes were very, very costly, and it ends up hurting the 49ers' chances of making the comeback. But I think he is fine. I think the 49ers are going to be just fine. I still think they're going to win this division. But these back-to-back games definitely hurt them. And you look at what they have coming up as far as being able to bounce back, as I stall for the internet to work here. They get a big one. I mean, the schedule doesn't get any easier. They get Cincinnati. Then I think you feel a little bit better about them. I mean, coming off a bye, they'll get Jacksonville and Tampa Bay, and then it really gets into the meat of the division. They get Seattle twice in 3 weeks, and the Eagles right in between that. What a weird 3-game stretch there. Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks. That'll be a big determination on where the 49ers are seated, but they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, and it might help them out a little bit because I believe the middle game between the Seahawks games is when Seattle plays Baltimore. So that'll be an interesting Seattle having get the chance. And I'm not trying to bash on Seattle, but that might be a rough stretch for them coming up in those few games too.
And then real quick for Minnesota, looking at their schedule and where they can go again, they started the season 0-3. Their only loss in the last 4 weeks was a 7-point loss to Kansas City. That's totally fine for where the Vikings are, but they're at Green Bay, which, I mean, that's a division game on the road, but we've seen what the Packers are looking like right now. I want to say they're like bottom 7 in our power rankings this week. They're at Atlanta. And you talk about a quarterback that tries to give away games. That's Desmond Ridder in a nutshell. Saints are not much better. Denver's terrible. Chicago's bad. Raiders are not great. So all of a sudden, I mean, say they slip up once in that stretch, that's still 5-1 in that run. And all of a sudden you're 8-5. And all the season feels completely different. And now we're talking about, well, is Justin Jefferson even going to come back? Because it looks like the Viking season is over. Like, they could ease him back in through some of those games, and he can come right back into a great situation. So it's so wild how quickly the Viking season feels completely different now that they pull off this upset.
Well, and here's the other thing I'm going to bring up with this team. You look at their first 3 losses, 3 points, 6 points, 4 points. So all within a score.
That was the Vikings last year. They won all these games. Now it's back to about even. I mean, every game that they have played has been a 1-possession game. Every single one. But now they're not just winning all of them like it was last year, but they're kind of the same team we thought they were last year. By the way, the Phillies have now taken a 2-1 lead at home over the Diamondbacks.
I'm pulling for them. I have to.
Why?
I'm just a big fan. I think this is a year that Bryce Harper's going to try to prove that he deserves it. And for him, what he's doing at first base. But the kid that I'm excited in watching, and yes, he has had a down NLCS, but compared to what he did in the division is Nick Castellanos. That dude was on fire during the divisional round. And I think this team deserves to play. I am excited to watch this World Series. Doesn't matter which one of these teams come out.
Right.
I think this is going to be a great World Series.
Well, let's talk about that, as the Rangers are the first team to punch their ticket into the World Series. Thank everything out there for that to happen. As it now looks like, are they sending him? No, He's going back to third. Okay. So we base hit into left field out there. We'll keep you updated throughout this game. But Texas eliminating the Houston Astros. Hagen puts in the comments, how happy am I? I'm extremely happy. So happy for this to happen. It's literally gotten to the point where the Astros are more hated for me than Boston. The rivalry between the Yankees and Red Sox is fun, and that's always something to go with. Our buddy Jimmy from the casino, big Boston guy. It's always fun to kind of push each other's buttons and have a good time there. But just Houston is that team that, I mean, they kind of have that New England Patriot stink to them, even though they haven't won as much as the Patriots, just because you have the cheating scandals going on. I do believe some of those cheating scandals hurt the Yankees at multiple times, whether making the World Series or Aaron Judge not winning the MVP against Jose Altuve. So I'm just sick of that team. I'm just absolutely sick of them, and I can't do it anymore. And I will. I usually, once we get to the playoffs, if the Yankees are out, I don't care. I just want really good games. But we do have the evil villain Astros that we got to root against, and Texas was able to take care of business.
Yeah, and it comes from the AL West, and being an AL West fan, Seattle guy, you always pull against it, but what the Astros have done over the last few years has been crazy to make that many runs in there and come our way with 2 championships. It's kind of nice and it's refreshing, but you look at the other point of that is how much money the Rangers dropped into this team this year.
Oh, they went all in.
They did,
for sure.
And what they did to try to get this in there, and it's just phenomenal, especially with Garcia and what he came away with playing here in the postseason so far.
Yeah, and they didn't rest on their laurels, did Texas, and they went out and made some big trade deadline moves with Max Scherzer at the deadline, Jordan Montgomery, who's been phenomenal for them as a starting pitcher.
Weren't they a day apart signing?
Yeah, they were all right next to each other for sure, because it was right around the trade deadline when both of those things happened.
Then you see Castellanos strike out. Sorry,
let's not freak out over every at bat over here. We're not doing a reaction cast.
I'm impressed with what that kid's done during the postseason. So
yeah, Montgomery was traded on July 30th. Scherzer was also traded on July 30th. So yeah, I mean, they made some big moves in the offseason. They added to it at the trade deadline. Montgomery is going to make himself a lot of money in the offseason. Obviously, former Yankee, then got traded to the Cardinals, and then ended up with the Rangers, and he's 3-0 in the postseason. Yes, I agree with Eric. Now we can all breathe for sure. So yeah, I'm very happy to see Texas go out there and they put all of their eggs in the basket, and it worked out. If it was the Yankees that did that, we would be talking about them buying a championship, but because Texas has struggled so much and they're not known for that, we're all happy for them. But it's because, they're going up against Houston, and Adolis Garcia goes out and just has a monster ALCS. Just every time he came up, there was a point where they pitched to him with first base open, and the commentators the whole time were like, what are they doing? Like, I know you're down by, what was it, like 6 runs or something at that point, but why are you pitching to him? And he hits it into left field, scores 2 runs, and blew the game up open completely. And that was all she wrote for the Astros, and everyone moved on. But Garcia, 14 RBIs in the ALCS. That's a major league record. He had 4 consecutive games with a home run. One of them, I'm still thinking he's walking out to this day. The fact that he hit a moonshot, in game 5, that was a complete sky high, mile high, if you would, and then finally lands into the stands, and then they go back to Garcia, and he's still walking. Had yet to really move much. I gut rolled, and then they pluck him, which I'm still, I don't believe was on purpose. You're not going to do that in a 2-run game with a runner on base.
Well, even
in the ALCS, but
even his base hit last night, and that one was funny. The base hit was extremely high, and Garcia just stands there and watches it. He could have easily been on second base.
No, I know what you're talking about. It was not extremely high. It was a line drive shot. He hit a home run later that was sky high again. But
the one down right field.
His single, well, he had 2 home runs yesterday.
Right.
One down the right field line, and then one late in that game just for fun. But his single, it was a line drive shot, and he stood there and watched for a bit, and then it hit off the top of the wall. I don't think he would have got a double. He's not the quickest of feet. But no, congratulations to Texas. They will be the team that will host the first 2 games of the World Series. They get home field advantage for their record, and that's because the National League playoffs went exactly as planned. I mean, everyone predicted the Phillies and the Diamondbacks to be in this position. Everyone predicted it in spring training and at the All-Star break. And once the bracket was out, right? We all picked the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nothing.
I Never believed in the Phillies. I thought the Diamondbacks were a fun little story and thought they were a couple of years away, but at least they were improving. You had a good, starting pitching group, and I think that's really what's turned them around is their pitching has been phenomenal in the postseason. Phillies up 2-1 now going to the 5th inning here at Game 7, but Phillies for whatever reason they do a great job of sneaking into the playoffs and playing their best baseball come September and October, and they're doing it again here. So, Braves and Dodgers, we all thought were just locked into the NLCS. Neither of them make it here, and we will see here in probably 2 hours or so who will join the Rangers in the World Series. Game 1 will be on Friday, Game 2 on Saturday, and then we'll be live on Monday night shortly after Game 3 concludes. But out of the 3 teams left, sir, who's winning the World Series?
And I said it a minute ago, I'm really pulling for the Phillies. I like what this team has done.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Turner being there. Schwarber has had a great Harper. I mean, they've got some really good athletes there. And I
did you just call Schwarber an athlete?
I did. Even though he's DH.
I mean, he's more of an athlete than me. But
he's one of those ones that gets out there, swings as hard as he can. Right now in the postseason, he's got 17. I was gonna say 17 strikeouts, but when he has been able to produce RBIs, he does. But you look at Harper, with his 8 RBIs, 5 home runs in the postseason. You've got 3 guys that have hit 5 home runs. Castellanos being one of them, and a youthful guy in that guy. I really think that Philadelphia, if they get through this one, they're leading right now. I think they are the ones that are going to knock off the Rangers.
And as Eric had mentioned, the Red Wings already with the 1-0 lead over the Kraken. Just started the second.
So I have to ask,
period.
Is he watching? I want to know, are you watching, Eric, the center ice frenzy with John Bucci-Gross and all that?
I need to watch that. I still haven't turned that on.
They had Bucci. They had Bucci on today, and they were he was talking about how things were going to look tonight. So, but I kind of applaud NHL opening night. Every one of the games dropped 15 minutes after each of them, and so there's constant hockey going on.
Yeah, it's a smart move, and I'm glad a lot of sports are kind of going that direction. With, NFL Red Zone being so popular, baseball did that with the big inning. NBA, I'm sure, has something like that on NBA TV. I don't watch that stuff. So
does NBA have? Do they do anything?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, we don't care.
We don't care.
But I'm sure they do. But it's cool that NHL is.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a good job with ESPN of getting more games available with ESPN Plus. So
yeah, and I told you I got sucked into the start of the night watching Toronto and the Capitals, and Toronto ended up winning that one 4-1. So just where you're aware of that. So, but I got sucked in quick. So makes me want to go up to Spokane and catch a Chiefs game.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out, make a trip again.
I agree. I still have not been up there. I still need to. All right, let's move on back into the National Football League. And I put this topic in there because it was interesting. I was sad I put in a topic that was based around my homerism last week, and then I couldn't be on the show. So a couple of big wins this weekend from 2 teams that are very high up on our power rankings. We'll talk about that next hour, but Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football took care of Miami. That was our only game that you and I picked differently. And of course, you get that one right because my NFL picks have been complete garbage. But the Eagles won that one 31-17. The other game that really stood out was Baltimore crushing the Detroit Lions 38-6. Take your homerism and set it over here.
Good.
What was the more impressive one?
We knew that I thought that Miami was going to play a little bit more, be able to stand right next to Philadelphia the entire game. And I really thought that. I think Tua just didn't have the numbers, didn't produce what he should have done, forced a few passes that I got to watch because I was bowling. Right. You were at home, so
I lounged and watched it.
You were able to watch that one a little bit more. But what Baltimore did against a team, and now,
wait a minute, hold on, time out. Chris Picard just commented. He said he's a Phillies fan.
The Seahawks fan?
But he's a Seahawks fan. And he's an Eagles fan? No, I can't do it. Don't get me into this rant. One team. You pick a team.
Bird. He's a bird.
Uno team.
Bird is a word.
One team. One team. You pick one and you just go for it. What is happening? Now he's a Seagulls fan. What is happening here? Chris, you and I, we need an intervention, buddy.
Yeah, it's funny. But I'm going to take the Baltimore-Detroit game too. Yeah, for them to calm them down to the point, Dan Campbell made it quite blunt about it. You know, he needed this loss to get his guys to know that they can be beat, and Baltimore was able to do that. And what Monken was doing play call wise for Baltimore, and just short little passes. Lamar only missed six times in that entire game, and he took what he could do. I mean, Lamar only rushed for, I think, 4 times in that entire game. That
went for a touchdown.
Yeah, and that was on 4th down too, 4th and 1.
Yeah.
So it was impressive. I enjoyed watching that game. That
Jags better. Stop it, Trevin.
He's trolling.
Go back and look at your Twitter on the Jags game. That's for sure. That was the least impressive victory I've seen all year. And I didn't even get to watch it. I was driving back from Coeur d'Alene on that day. But I will agree with you. Baltimore was a more impressive victory for 2 reasons. One, they just completely shut down Detroit. It was 28-0 before the Lions got a first down.
3. Go and read my power rank. Just 3 and outs to start the game.
Oh, I agree. A win is a win, and a win is great, Trevin. But it was not impressive. But they completely shut down what Detroit wanted to do.
Well, maybe we should have talked about the Jags.
I guess. Apparently, I needed that segment with 2 Jags fans on here to argue with each other. By the way, Jags fan Eric was the lowest on Jacksonville in our power rankings. We'll talk about that in the next hour. But Detroit had 0 chance in that game from the word go. And while I like Dan Campbell's comments, and I always like his press conferences,
I do too.
I don't think they needed this loss. But he was straight up. They kicked our butts. And they did. Baltimore dominated. The fact that Lamar Jackson had 8 hours every time he dropped back to pass. And I will give Lamar credit. 2 years ago, with that much time, he would have ran every single time. But he waited, found somebody to throw it to. He has some good weapons now and made some good connections and made smart throws. That's why he only had 6 incompletions. But he had all day to throw all game long. To me, the other game with Philadelphia, while that's an impressive victory because Miami's a very good team, that's just a style clash that I did not put 2 and 2 together when I put the picks in. Miami is just too finesse-oriented to play against teams like Philadelphia or Baltimore. So I think they may struggle a little bit with New England when they play. Or maybe why I have slight optimism that the Jets could beat them at least one of the 2 games because they can shut down the finesse style of offense. Like Miami wants to open things up and make the big flashy plays, and they can because they have such great talent. But you get punched in the Jason. Gotcha. Okay. But you get punched in the mouth a few times and you're unable to do that offense. I really think that was just a style clash as we're now tied 2-2 as the Diamondbacks get the score. Good job by Corbin Carroll with the base hit. But Chris Picard saying Jason Kelce's the MVP because the brotherly shove is so impossible to stop for the Eagles and no one else can run it. And it's all because of Jason Kelce.
Yeah. And they've been very physical, but the other guy, I've been on Jalen Hurts as he could be in the discussion, and he's slowly playing himself out of it because he's not putting up near the numbers, except when he throws to AJ Brown, who is 5 straight games of 125 yards.
He's been so good.
He has been a stud for that team. But I'd never thought of it the way you just did, and you said it. It was finesse against power.
Again, you need to listen to my talking heads because that's all I heard about today. I guess yesterday. Rich Eisen, Colin Cowherd, and then First Things First. Those are the three things that I always have to watch.
Bad thing is, both of those happen. All of those happen when I'm at school and at work.
So. I don't watch them live. I watch all their YouTube clips.
Maybe that's what I need to start doing.
But those are the three I will watch all the time. First Things First. Sometimes the commentary gets a little loosey goosey, but I find them entertaining as long as you don't take them serious. They have a lot of fun.
That's still the one with Stephen A. Smith.
No, that's
First Take.
That's First Take. Yeah. First Things First is Nick Wright, who's way over the top. I'm blanking on the host's name.
What?
No, Rich Eisen. I will say Rich Eisen, play-by-play is not Rich Eisen's strong suit.
No.
All right, yeah, don't be digging on Al Michaels. He's just been around for a long time, and you're not used to it. By the way, if we want to get into play-by-play, guys,
he wasn't even around for the best play-by-play guys. Dude, there was John Madden.
There's some good ones out there.
And
that's a weird way to say, but I like Buck and Aikman. I don't care. Like, there's too much hate on Joe Buck. He is really, really good at his job. But we just hear Buck and Aikman all the time. Mm-hmm. They're always on the main games, so you get tired of hearing their voice. But I'll say this, because I wasn't on the show last week before we move on, and partially because I'm trying to avoid this Kansas City talk. Yeah, it's fair. Maybe he's past his prime as far as Trevin saying Al Michaels is goated, but out of it now. I can see that. But the new color guy that I cannot stand is Mark Sanchez.
Oh my God. I'm trying to remember which game he'd had this week, because
I don't know what he had this week, but he had the Philadelphia Jets game 2 weeks ago. He is trying to be Tony Romo so bad it hurts. I have a new college kid,
right, that's
doing the volleyball games with me.
Yeah, he's been
and during the first time out of the first game he did with me this year, I had to stop him and go, we don't go, oh, wow, like in between the point. Like, it gets really annoying. Go watch any game that Mark Sanchez is a part of. That's all you hear. Like, just let the play happen and then talk about it afterwards. Stop reacting on the microphone, dude.
Yeah, I want to say Baltimore had Burkhardt and Greg Olson this last week, and listening to I don't know, Trevin. I kind of like his analysis, but he's more of the receiver side analysis compared to a quarterback, which was good. I don't know if I liked his suit this week. His suit was, oh my God, that suit was
barely on TV. That's fine. All right, we got to move on. We've hit the bottom of the hour, so I got to tell you, you are watching and are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on lcwarriorradio.com for the audio version, or you can check out the video version on our Facebook or YouTube pages. Just look up R&R Sports Report. All right, we got to get into this topic before we move on. He has not said a comment all night, so I'm going to see if he's not here or if he's just being quiet. But the question is this the scariest the Kansas City Chiefs have ever been?
I don't know. I think Mahomes has to be one of the greatest. That combination now between him and Ma'ato, we'll call him Ma'ato. Have you seen the commercial?
I hate that commercial.
Anyway, Kelsey and him, now 50 touchdowns together. Like that. It has been impressive.
Yeah.
Pacheco is playing up this year, but I feel like their running game is still
the running game is still not good, but that's not the reason why I believe that this Kansas City team is as scary as they've ever been.
Okay.
Their defense. They didn't have a defense on either of these Super Bowl runs or any of the AFC Championship game runs. They've never had a defense. Exactly. Chris nails it too. It's the defense. I don't think they've given up more than 20 points, right?
That's
all year.
That's the only reason why they lost this week, and they did not have Chris Jones to start the year off. So that's a very valid
they
point.
lose to Detroit in that opening game. They have not lost since. You could say they really haven't played anybody. I mean, you go look at some of those schedules, but I mean, Minnesota is starting to turn things around. Chargers are hit or miss. But the fact that this offense continues to is starting to find its gears. They go out and they get Hardman back from the Jets, and that gives them a good punt returner and just another speed option for them. Rice is having a pretty good time, though he's now having some legal issues.
Yeah.
On top of it, but obviously Kelsey is always open.
Right.
12 catches, 179 yards and a touchdown. But it's the defense.
Right. So with you saying that, so they gave up 21 to the Lions when the Lions won there. Gave up 9 to Jacksonville, 10 to the Bears, 20 to the Jets, 20 to the Vikings, 8 to the Broncos, and 17 to the Chargers.
Yeah. Not murderer's row as far as offenses go. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks, and they play the Dolphins in Germany. What a game that's going to be. Sorry, Trevin, that's another Rich Eisen game.
And then you get the Eagles right after that.
Yeah. I think there's a bye week in between, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But still, there are 2 straight games for Kansas City. I will give credit to Robert Taylor. He sent me this information on our Facebook today, and credit to Aaron Schatz on Twitter for posting it. But Kansas City is 4th in offense, 5th in defense, and 2nd in special teams. They're the first team to be that high in all of those rankings since the 1999 Rams.
At this point in the season,
I'm going to guess.
What I'm going to ask you.
I'm going to guess all for the season.
Okay, so we're only 7 weeks in.
Yeah,
okay.
I would guess these other teams did it for the entire season, not just through the first 7 weeks, and things can definitely change. Though things defensively just look amazing for Kansas City, and I think the offense is going to get better. But the other teams that did that, 96 Packers, 91 Redskins, 90 Giants, 85 Bears, and the 84 Redskins.
So you've got Super Bowl champ in the Redskins, Super Bowl champs in the Bears, Super Bowl champs in the Packers, and the other Redskins team.
So the Rams, the 96 Packers, the 91 Redskins, and the 85 Bears all won the Super Bowl.
Right.
The 90 Giants would have won the Super Bowl if their kicker made the kick. And the 84 Redskins actually got 1 and out. They got bounced in the first round of their playoffs.
Right.
But still, fantastic teams. 07 Jets. I don't think the offense was 33rd. There was no offense. When's the last time the Jets had a top 10 offense?
Yeah,
I'm saying that seriously now because I'm not sure.
I see Chris's comment about Andy Reid.
What happened to my game?
I think that holds a lot to do with it. Whoa. Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
Go to reload. I think Andy Reid has a lot to do with it. He is one of those smart, very deliberate coaches, and he knows how he needs to have his teams to react. I think 100%. Offensively, I'm surprised they're 4th, but I think it's just because of the run game. I think that's what brings them down.
And they had a slow start to the year. Mahomes lately has been phenomenal. I mean, the fact that he went 32 of 42, 424, and 4 touchdowns, and we went, that's a normal game for him. Neither of us even questioned whether we were going to put him as the offensive player of the week.
Mm-hmm. And you look at who he's throwing to also. I mean, he's distributing, he's throwing everything to Kelsey, but he's distributing that ball around quite well. And he's getting to that point where he's trusting everybody that he's got now.
4 different pass catchers got a touchdown on Sunday. So, and this team's scary. I hate to say it, but they are. And I think we got through that whole segment, and Robert Taylor wasn't here, so that's great. Let's move on to the NFL Weekly Awards. Again, like you said, Patrick Mahomes had a fantastic day. He does not make our Offensive Player of the Week. I, of course, went with Jordan Addison from yesterday, 7 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One that should have been an interception, and he just took away from the defender. So a good coming out party for that young man. What about you?
I got to go Homer. What he did to a defense that has been in the top, even a team that's been in our top 5 the last 2 weeks in the power rankings. I'm going Lamar. I have to. Just missing 6 of his passes, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, no sacks. He was had 9 carries for 36 yards and a touchdown there on 4th and 1. But big thing you were talking about. He had all day to do whatever he wanted.
Defensive player of the week, who do you got?
I'm going to go with a guy that kind of set the tempo, and the only reason I paid attention to this one a little bit more is because I write the stuff for the Raiders, and that's the Chicago Bears and Jalen Johnson. What he did, 3 tackles, only 3 tackles, but 2 big interceptions, one for a touchdown that kind of sealed the deal for the Bears in that one.
Well, I appreciate you not taking the obvious choice just because you hate him and he's a division rival, but Myles Garrett, what a game. 2 sacks, 9 tackles, 7 of them were solo. He had a forced fumble and then did that old jump over the center, which who was the Seattle Seahawk that was so good at that, Chris? I know you'll know. But they changed the rules where you couldn't, if you touched anybody on that line at all, it ended up being a big penalty. So people stopped attempting it. Myles Garrett cleared them beautifully and got a big blocked field goal too. But I know there was a Seahawk that was really famous for it. But he would bump the center as he was going up and over. But again, when Chris hears that, he'll let us know. Oh yeah, Bobby Wagner, I think is who I was thinking. Chancellor was another one. I think Bobby Wagner was the one on my mind that was doing it. So
I don't know.
Yeah, they've changed the rule because of that stuff, and he still did it.
Well, when you hear that one, and yes, it's because I'm older and I've seen something. When I hear people jumping over the line and getting to that, I think of Lawrence Taylor.
Oh yeah,
and that's as soon as you say, okay, I'm gonna go block something, that's the first name that comes up to mind, and what he did as a game. So
let's get to our Thursday night football pick. Again, we post all of our picks on Thursday. Take my picks and pick the opposite because my NFL picks are horrible this year.
Now, but to be honest, this last week there was a lot of games that was brutal with games going out everywhere. So
absolutely, but I'm going to do my best to get back into this. I think you have a 6-game lead
6 games
over me in the National Football League, but we ignore that and we focus on high school and college here,
which
on this show. Which, by the way, Trevin, good to hear from you. I haven't seen you on the show too much. Stick around for the second hour. I want to get your picks for some of these games that we have for the high school and college for sure. But Thursday night football, Tampa Bay at Buffalo. The Bills have to bounce back after that ugly loss. Tampa Bay has not looked good. Baker Mayfield has went back into his Baker Mayfield form. So give me Buffalo.
Yeah, even though Mike Evans had a good game, and hats off to Bill Belichick picking up his 300th career win.
Yes.
I think you're exactly right. Buffalo has to bounce back and come away with a win on this one. So give me Buffalo.
All right, let's look at the draft order right now. We're getting close to halfway through the regular season, but I brought this up for 2 reasons. One, for the next topic that we're going to do for the rest of this first hour, but 2, I have homework for one, Eric Watkins.
I'm surprised you didn't go trade deadline, because trade deadline next week?
We'll talk about whatever trades happen. I mean, the Eagles fleeced the Titans again. But we'll see what happens. But the trade deadline still,
week, I think, isn't it?
It's exactly 1 week from today. So we won't hit all the major ones because we have the show on Monday night. But until the NFL goes crazy with the trade deadline, I'm not going to overreact to stuff. But yes, I do have homework for Eric Watkins, because here is your top 10 draft order as they stand right now. So the Chicago Bears have the number 1 overall pick because they got it from Carolina last year. Arizona is 2. Chicago with their own pick is 3. So that's pretty juicy to have the 2 of the top 3 picks right now. Denver, Giants are the other teams in the top 5. And then the other 5 are the Patriots, Packers, Titans, Chargers, and Saints. Obviously, things will rotate. But here's the homework for Eric. When was the last time, if ever, the top 10 draft order did not have the Jets, Lions, or Texans on it? And you could throw Jaguars in there too, because the Jaguars are always at the bottom of that order. Jaguars, Texans. Now I've lost my train of thought. Jets and Lions. That top 10 right now is the exact opposite of what a lot of top 10 draft orders would be.
100% with that.
And that's the thing. Trevin and I, would do mock drafts all the time in the Tribune. Why? Because the Jaguars and Jets always stunk.
Chris has put it up there. It's before the Texans came into the league.
It's possible. It may have never happened. I mean, and there's different rotations you can do with some of these teams because the Lions are always bad, Jets are always bad, Jaguars are hit or miss, and the Texans are always bad. So it may have never happened that those 4 teams all were out of the top 10.
It's just crazy to look at the list that is in there right now with the Saints and all that.
Mm-hmm. When's the last time the Pats picked in the top 10? That's another good one. It's been a weird year in the National Football League, and franchises are completely changing, and that's, I think, the fun of the NFL is how much rotation there is. You still got your stalwarts up there. I mean, the Chiefs are always good. The Steelers are always at least decent. How the heck are they 4-2 right now? Watching their games is painful. But they're still good, and they're probably still going to finish over 500 because that's just what they do. But we got some different teams up there. I still think some of these teams may slip back down. The Jets and or Texans probably could as well. The Jags are always good. Obviously, that's why they got Trevor Lawrence, Trevin. I wish they were better, so the Jets would have got Trevor Lawrence that year. But neither here nor there. But that does bring us to the next topic. And again, I have not talked to you about how you feel about this. And we're having some fantastic conversations in the chat as well. So I think this is going to be really fun.
So I'm going to probably make somebody mad here in a minute because I think I know what I would do with this gentleman.
Yes, but I have a question for everyone listening right now and a question for Robert Hagan. Is Caleb Williams overhyped and overrated? I am 100% yes on this question before we get into the discussion, but I want to know your answer, and I want to know everyone answers from the comments as well. But is Caleb Williams overhyped and overrated?
I think over the last couple games, he is showing his true colors.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's still a top 5 quarterback.
I think he's going to be the biggest bust of busts.
You think so? I think he's probably in the top 5, but I don't see him really producing even this week after watching what Notre Dame did to him and Utah did to him.
So this is why I think this, and it is becoming a popular opinion to talk this up. And Nick Wright, obviously the big Caleb Williams lover, goes anti this all the time. But we do this every year.
Mm-hmm.
We overhype a young man that does great things. So for Haley, Caleb Williams is the quarterback for USC, who everyone is thinking is the next can't-miss quarterback in a draft that if he comes out in his junior year. He won the Heisman as a sophomore, not the first sophomore to win the Heisman. We did this with Manziel.
Mm-hmm.
We did this with, who's the other one that was like Manziel? Baker Mayfield. We do this all the time. We overhype these quarterbacks because they have a really good year coming, through college. I think Caleb Williams has eaten into his own hype, being over there at USC. But when was the last USC quarterback that turned out to be anything in college? Remember all those years where USC was fantastic. Matt Leinart was bad. Mark Sanchez was bad. Like none of them turned out to be good quarterbacks. They all came out of A&M. So.
I'm trying to remember who was.
Well, to be fair, Baker Mayfield came out of Oklahoma, but same thing.
And why am I drawing a blank? I can see the game, and I can see Vince Young running to the corner of the end zone.
That was Leinart.
Was it Leinart?
Yeah.
Was quarterback at that time? I'm trying to remember.
But here, so you bring it up, and there are 2 games against Notre Dame and Utah. So I put the numbers together for you.
Okay.
He played 2 ranked teams.
Right.
He went 0-2 against both of them, Notre Dame and Utah, the last 2 weeks. The first 6 games of the year, 71% completion percentage, 1,822 yards, so 303 yards per game, 22 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Those 6 games were against San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, Arizona State, Colorado, and Arizona.
And I just, so with that being said, while you were doing it, I pulled up their schedule. You know me and the remaining schedule. You face right now 3 ranked opponents in the next,
and it's going to be
in the
rough.
next 4 weeks.
Yeah. Do they have Oregon on their regular schedule?
Yes,
Yeah.
they have them on.
They're going to eat him alive.
They're on Veterans Day.
They're going to eat him alive. But the 2 games against Notre Dame and Utah, 66% completion percentage, which is fine. 455 yards, which is 227 yards a game, basically. 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. But that's not just this year. You go back to his career, and shout out to First Things First for putting up this graphic that I stole. But in his college career against non-ranked opponents, Caleb Williams is 19-4, the 69.4% completion percentage. He averages 313 yards a game, 77 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. In his 6 games against a ranked opponent, he's 3-3 with a 58.6 percentage completions, 201 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He goes great against weak teams. There's not that many weak teams in the NFL to the level of weakness that college is. I think Caleb Williams is overhyped. Somebody's going to take him number 1, and he's going to end up being a bust. And it's not going to be the first time that happened. All I've heard about Caleb Williams is how he is the next Andrew Luck. He's that next can't-miss quarterback. Well, Andrew Luck was 4-4 in playoff appearances. He made 1 AFC championship game. Andrew Luck was okay. He was not great. And the Colts definitely did not help him. Trevor Lawrence was that other great quarterback, and he's still yet to be determined, but he's 1-1 in conference or playoff games as well. So I went back through the next Trevor Lawrence. Well, I still want to see what Trevor Lawrence is. I still would have rather had Trevor Lawrence than the other quarterbacks in his group. But go through and just look at the first quarterback taken. Everyone was all in on Bryce Young. He might be the 4th best quarterback in this draft class right now.
That's what I'm looking up right now. I was kind of looking right now. You look at who's there. You definitely, I'm sorry, you put Michael Penix well ahead of him.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy. I'm not a huge Michigan fan. I don't know if it's what's there. You've got Jaden Daniels. You got Jordan Travis from Florida State, which Florida State.
Isn't it Mayo or something from North Carolina is supposed to be really good up there too?
Drake May.
Yeah,
there you go. You've got Jordan Travis. You got Dylan Gabriel, Bo Nix in that conversation.
But I don't think any of them are must think. I think it was First Things First. I asked this question too. It's like, if you have the number 1 pick, who are you going for? It's Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm taking him first overall.
If you're Chicago, oh heck yeah,
yeah,
you go with him all day long.
Period. I'm going with him first. I think he is an absolute can't miss.
And I think
that's true too.
And I really think he's the highest ranked non-quarterback player to go off the board.
But I think we've gotten to that point where we always go ridiculous on these quarterbacks, and then they may hit, and some of the times it's later on in the draft when they hit. So again, Bryce Young was the first quarterback taken this year. CJ Stroud has played phenomenally better. Last year was Kenny Pickett was the first quarterback taken. Usually we'd go, well, that's not that great, but I mean, the other quarterbacks were Ritter and Zappy. Brock Purdy, of course, being Mr. Irrelevant in that year. 2021, I think we could all say Trevor Lawrence being the first pick was the correct pick, as Wilson and Lance and Mac Jones have been terrible. Justin Fields is hit or miss.
I kind of agree with Chris. Yeah. Chicago, then you go Marvin Harrison Jr. with that.
I
think the first one, and maybe I'm wrong by thinking this, because you're gonna bash me a little bit because of my power rankings. I keep asking Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Do they draft there? I really think, looking at the standings right now in the picks of the order, Denver is a definite draft a quarterback. 100% draft a quarterback in that 4 position. I wouldn't be half surprised if they don't move up. If they depending on where they fall,
where things go.
I think that team continues.
But again, so they'll go out there and they will draft Caleb Williams. I have no doubt he's going to be the first pick overall. But does it mean that all of a sudden you have your franchise quarterback? It's such a hit or miss thing, even going first. So Joe Burrow was the first quarterback taken and first pick overall in 2020, but that draft class was insane. So between Joe Burrow in 2020 and Andrew Luck in 2012, I'm just going to list off the first quarterback taken.
Okay.
You tell me if it worked out or not. Okay.
Okay.
Kyler Murray in 2019.
No. Not yet.
Never. This is not going to happen. 2018 was Baker Mayfield.
No. I got to watch him play in his rookie year.
Lamar Jackson was the fifth quarterback taken in that pick, and it's worked out pretty well for you.
Yes, it has.
2017 was Mitchell Trubisky.
Is he still playing?
He's a backup somewhere, right? Is he a backup for Buffalo?
I don't know where he's at.
Obviously, Mahomes was the second pick or second quarterback taken in that one. 2016 is the up and down Jared Goff.
No.
Got you to a Super Bowl, I guess.
Yeah, he's been there.
2015 was Jameis Winston.
No.
2014, Trevin's GOAT, Blake Bortles.
No.
2013. Do you remember EJ Manuel?
He was a Buffalo Bill, wasn't he not?
For a day
and a half.
Yeah. And then, of course, Andrew Luck, 2012. So the first quarterback, more often than not, doesn't work out. So I'm just saying, while Caleb Williams would be your number one pick come April, bust is written all over that dude. You are watching and are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on LCWarriorRadio.com and or our Facebook and YouTube pages. Just search R&R Sports Report, where we can comment like Trevin and Chris and Eric and Haley have been doing all throughout the show. And we appreciate all of you for hanging out with us. It's cold outside, 45 degrees as we finally hit that October weather. It felt pretty good. But yeah, the heat is no longer an issue. I have to say, I'm in a tennis class just so I can learn from Kai Fogg some more and having a good time and feeling really, really old. Brought to you part by viewers like you. Absolutely. But they turned the heater on in the tennis center for the first time this year on Monday. Did you know that tennis balls get stuck in the heaters and the heat makes the tennis balls shoot out of the heater? And you see like the burnt section of it. We almost got hit by 4 different tennis balls during class on Monday. It was great.
I think the last time when you did get hit by a tennis ball when we played Kaifeng.
Yeah, by you.
Yeah,
you hit me. You were my teammate. Playing it's just horrible. All right, let's get into it. Sports related draft, top of the hour time. We will have a new winner guaranteed, as you let David Doofenberg beat you.
Well, I changed the topic a little bit from what you and I had.
But still, you let him beat you.
And I don't think we can do it on Warrior Radio, just because it was some of the names were a little more adult.
Family show and all that stuff.
Exactly.
I have 34 wins. You have 20. And now Doof joins the likes of Eric Watkins and Denny Grubb as first time and only time winners.
Yes.
I did beat Eric 2 weeks ago for the double whammies.
That was a good
draft that he picked.
I enjoyed that. And I know I'm the one that voted for you.
Sorry, you voted, and I also sent Harry also sent me his vote, and both of you voted for me. So thank you so much. But yeah, that was a really good topic on his part. And it was really fun to kind of look through stuff and make it work. But Halloween is a week away, which again is why we will have a Monday night show next week. So of course we'll go Halloween related. And I'm shocked we have not done this in the 3+ years we have done this show. We've had multiple Halloweens to do this. But the best sports related Halloween costume ideas. I came up with this topic. So Robert, you get the first pick.
I'm going this way just because it was one that I saw a couple weeks ago. And with everything going on with this guy, I just thought it was hilarious when I saw it. It was like an 11-year-old or something like that wearing a major league umpire blue polo, black slacks,
umpire gear,
acting like Angel Hernandez with a blind man walking cane. I was hilarious when I saw that. I just
I will fight back a little bit. Yes, we like to poo-poo on Angel Hernandez as much as we can now that Joe Buck is retired. But to me, to go in your route, the best way to go is just be an NFL referee and have a bunch of flags and just randomly throw them at people. And when they ask you, why do you do that? And you're like, holding. Just randomly make up a call. Because that's what the NFL feels like. At the most important points, the NFL refs come up with just ridiculous calls. They happen in 2 or 3 games where a crucial situation was decided by the referees, and you hate to see it. Now, I feel bad for the refs because what a tough thing to do. I could do that this year.
There is holding on every play.
And it just comes out in weird spots.
Every play.
So my first pick is kind of the easy way to go. Everyone's looking for couples.
I don't understand why you went this way, because you have not been on board with this.
I'm tired of it. But you know what? If you go, well, I mean, you and I are not social. I'm not a social person, and we're not cool enough we're too old to go to Halloween parties at this point. But for anyone that's listening here at LC, let us know when you go to your Halloween party if there's a Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift couple. It's going to happen. They're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be a simple outfit, whatever Taylor Swift wears, and then somebody in a Chiefs jersey. All you have to do is be a Chiefs fan and have a Chiefs jersey, and then have her dress up normal. And we're Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. That's it. That's all you got to do. Mm-hmm. But they're going to do it, and it's all over the place.
I bet you it's Steven. I bet you Steven does it.
Steven does it. I bet Robert Taylor does it.
Steven Weber and his.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's going to be people to do it. And the female just has to wear a Chiefs jersey too, and chest bump people or whatever she was doing.
Did you see her clap with her celebration after?
No, I don't care.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
But, yeah,
Denise and I saw that.
It's going to be one of the most popular couples outfits or costumes.
Newsflash: this is going to be a top 10 end of the year story. I guarantee.
100%. As much as we hate it, as much as I hate it. 100%, which is why it's very current and topical.
Hello, social media,
for a Halloween costume, unlike your other 2 picks. But so go ahead.
Listen, I had to go. I went.
Then that's why Trevin asks on our video feed, how do you dress up like generic white people when the only people who would want to do that are also generic white people? Exactly. You just throw on a Kelce jersey, and it's the easiest costume. That's the point of Halloween costumes, is the easiest way to do it. You just have to, for Angel Hernandez, you just put on dark sunglasses and say you're an MLB ref or umpire. Same thing with refs. And so, yeah, it's a way to be easy. So go ahead. Give me your second pick.
So I did the same thing you did probably. And I Googled different uniforms or different costumes, but I went to a fan site.
Yep.
And then I went to a online Halloween store site front and all that. And one of the most popular uniforms is still one from A League of Their Own. From when the women's baseball was out, the Rockford Peaches.
Yeah.
Can you imagine now?
I
love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies.
I had somebody I went to high school with that their daughter dressed up as one of the Rockford Peaches. I want to go as Travis Kelce's mom. Haley, please do that. I don't know how you do it, but please do it. But yeah, A League of Their Own is great. It's not topical. It's an every year thing, and it's generic. But again,
it was on the top of their list, though.
Seeing a little kid in a Rockford Peach uniform was fantastic, and I'm very happy with it.
It was one of the ones on the top of the list, most sold costumes on this website that I was looking at.
So my second pick, you can go in 100 different ways for, whichever way you want to go. But dress up as Aaron Rodgers. You can have a bandaged leg. You can be Zach Wilson. There you go. I get it. I could be Zach Wilson. She could be Travis Kelce's mom.
Is there a party that you and Haley are supposed to go to this weekend?
No.
That's good. It's what it sounded like.
But that's hilarious. Haley wins the draft. But no, dress up as Aaron Rodgers. You can bandage up your leg for his whole Achilles thing. You could come up with some sort of darkness retreat outfit.
I just don't get it, though.
And I don't know what ayahuasca is, but you can make up something that looks like ayahuasca and hand it out to people.
I don't get it with that one, though. I really don't. Haley wins.
Yeah, I mean, Haley
we might as well stop right now.
But no, there's different ways you can make fun of Aaron Rodgers and all the crazy stuff that he has done this year. So
just this year?
Yeah, it's mostly been this year where he's went over the top with stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so there you go. That is my second pick. Some weird Aaron Rodgers deal. What? Give me your third.
All right, you picked it. You picked at me because here's the thing. I still have yet to watch the show.
I agree.
And when I saw the uniform and then I saw the website talk about it, I went with Ted
We might
Lasso.
get in trouble.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we already have 2 votes for Haley.
I know. We might as well just put Haley down.
I agree.
I went with Ted Lasso just because I have not seen it yet.
That's great, but the show ended.
I understand.
You missed it by 3 years. Like you had 3 years to do this.
I'm busy all the time. It's just crazy busy.
I need to sit. You need to watch Ted Lasso. 100%.
So but seeing the
and it's an
uniforms
easy
and
outfit.
Exactly, it's easy, and it reminded me a lot of Mike Ditka without saying Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean.
So there you go. Ted Lasso with your third pick. That's fine. But I got one more pick, and while right now Haley is winning, I'm going to do my best with this last pick to sway Eric and Chris.
No, they're going my way.
And try to get other votes as well. Try to come back in the sports related draft, though. That from Haley, that was fantastic. But another very topical one to go with, though there's another meme with this person that Haley showed me yesterday that made me gut roll. But who is the character in Sesame Street that's in the garbage can?
Groucho, isn't it? It's not Groucho.
Somebody knows that. I don't remember his name. But anyways.
That was like almost 50 years ago.
So you do that. You are in the garbage can. You can take out the bottom so you can walk around in your garbage can. But then you're in a Jose Altuve uniform. Oscar the Grouch. Thank you, Trevin and Haley.
I think
so. You combine. Eric got it in there too. So you combine Eric, or you can combine Oscar the Grouch with Jose Altuve because it makes sense and it's perfect.
I think that one's better than your Aaron Rodgers one. Just saying.
I agree because I thought about it later. Like we're doing these, and I'm trying to come up with my own and not look up websites. And I came up with that one after, and I went, I like this one. This will be great. Though the meme that Haley sent me was him looking at the tablet, they like to do after their at bats, and just to watch their at bats and kind of see what they're saying. And it was basically saying Jose Altuve earned tablet time with his home run, is what it looked like, because this little Altuve holding his tablet was great. So there you go. Those are our picks. So Robert went with Angel Hernandez, or a blind umpire. League of Their Own, and Ted Lasso. I went with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, Aaron Rodgers, and Jose Altuve in a garbage can.
The only reason you would win is if everybody gets on the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
I have a little bat for sure, but yeah, get one of those little bats that you get from baseball parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
We at least I got one. Did you get one from NAIA this year?
Not this year. I got one from last year.
Yeah, and Haley still wins.
Hey. Yes. You can't vote for yourself. It's not how that works. So let us know who won in the comments below, though. We may have another first-time winner. God darn it. That was great. It was too good. I can't even be mad about it. But I'm not. No. Yep. Hey, Trevin also picked Haley. So congratulations, Haley. This is changing sports-related draft history. And now everyone else is going to try to top us in the comments every time we have a sports-related draft. And you know what? I'm here for it.
I'm okay.
It's really good. Let's get into some local events, and let's start off with the ridiculousness that is Kendrick.
I thought
football.
Now, before you give the score, I thought last week's score between Pomeroy and Tushy was ridiculous.
Yeah.
This takes another step.
Yeah, Kendrick wins 112-6. And then before people go, well, why are they running up the score? It was like 90-something to nothing at halftime. They didn't score at all in the third quarter because they're throwing in, I'm sure, whatever ninth graders they even have on this team. And then they scored a couple times in the fourth quarter. Like, they went insane. The fact that Deary finished with like 40 yards negative of offense is gross.
Right.
Just
right.
Kendrick is so good.
Exactly. I tried to get chat with Mr. Hobart here a couple weeks ago, and he says, "What do you want to talk about with this team?" He says they're all good. Every athlete he has just produces and knows their role with this team.
Yeah,
and they're just rolling.
And there's also a reason why they're moving up in divisions next year, because they're getting more kids there, and they've created a great thing. It's kind of like Troy baseball right now. They've built from the ground up. They've been coaching these kids since they were younger, and now they've built kind of a fantastic dynasty for small high school sports in Idaho. And Trevin still gets to live that kind of stuff, and just ridiculous stuff is happening with Kendrick, and it's so wild to watch. Very excited for them to start their state tournament. We will pick the first round matchups for some local teams here in about 20 minutes or so, but Kendrick has a bye, I mean, obviously, but very excited to watch some of their games as they try to win a third straight state championship. Some other scores that went down: Coeur d'Alene took care of Lewiston, no surprise there, 29-16. That ends the season for the Bengals. You got a really fun one. Clarkson over Shadle Park, 41-23, puts them in a pretty good spot as far as their postseason hopes go.
Yeah, right now it was huge coming out to this. We knew it was going to be close, but the Bantams needed to come out with a big win. Carter Steinwan hits I want to say it was 39-yard Hail Mary into the end zone. The very last play of the first half comes down with it. Does Nate Summers, but Nate gets hurt in the second half, as well as Stephen Alford got hurt in the first half. So haven't heard much about Nate's injury other than he had a dislocated shoulder. So hopefully get him back this week. This week is a non-conference game, but we have to be – right now we're sitting second.
Yep.
And we are big Pullman fans this week as West Valley and Pullman play in this game. But if Pullman wins, we're number one in the GSL. But we have now clinched a playoff berth this year. So,
yeah, congratulations to Clarkson. I told you after the Lewis and Clarkson game, like, I don't get to go to a lot of high school games. I'm either working volleyball games or I'm working somewhere else. So I haven't been able to get to a lot of high school games this year, but was able to help out with the Lewis and Clarkson game. And while Lewiston dominated that game, I really had high hopes for Clarkson and what I saw from your front lines, offensive and defense, some of your skilled players as well. Clarkson will be fun come playoff time. A couple of the other games that we were interested in, Logos did take care of Prairie 66-40. Trevin's Logos team has been phenomenal this year. They also have a bye week in their state tournament. Now, we thought Kamei and Potlatch was going to be a really good game, and Kamei really took care of business 28-0 in that contest. Potlatch has a big first-round state tournament game this week. We'll talk about that here shortly. Hit us up with some soccer and volleyball, though.
Yeah, and one other one I want to bring up is that St. Mary's Orofino game. Yeah, there was battle of teams that were winless. Orofino just looking for something to spark these guys, and unfortunately it's still another loss on that. Been on Logos train since day one. They've been playing unbelievable.
Well, no, Trevin has been since they became a school.
Yeah.
Trevin has been on that team.
Exactly. As far as high school soccer, first off, Lewiston does finish their season this last week. So Clarkson's got a couple of games. They end up falling to the number one team in the 2A, West Valley, this past week, 5-0. But they finished second, and will be hosting on Monday. That's another one we'll have some info on Monday night. They will host as they are the number 2 seed there. And then you look at volleyball. We've been on LC volleyball a lot.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Lewiston falls to Post Falls this past weekend. They finished the season 11-13. And then Clarkston was home tonight. Still haven't got any update on that. They're young and they're playing. They've got a couple more games coming out in that. So, but you and I have a busy weekend with high school volleyball this coming weekend.
Yeah, we will both be up at the LHS gym. I don't think it has a name still yet. You'll be doing PA. I'll be doing play-by-play for the Class 1A Division II state volleyball tournament, the second day of the tournament. We're not working Friday, but we'll be there for the consolation finals and then all the other games going on. I think there's either 5 or 6 games, depending on if the team in the winner's bracket wins or not in the championship game. But I think it starts at 9 a.m. and goes to like 8.
We're doing D1. D2 is down here at LC, correct?
Other way.
Other way
around.
Yeah. D2 is up at L.
Yeah, D2 is LHS, D1 is at LCSC, so a lot of volleyball action Friday and Saturday. Horseshoe Bend is looking for a three-peat there. I actually got a call their first championship 2 years ago when they were up here as well. So I'll be on there for NFHS, and then you'll be there for for all the PA stuff. So get to your LCSC news real quick. Cross country will take part in the Sasquatch Open in Spokane tomorrow. Volleyball split their 2 games over the weekend. Pretty good weekend for them. I mean, they weren't going to beat Southern Oregon. They had a pretty good second set at first and then let that kind of fall apart. But it looked dire against Oregon Tech on Saturday. They get crushed in that first set, 25-12. It just doesn't look good. They were able to bounce back, won the next 3 sets, 25-22, 25-20, and 25-20. Jenna Carpenter was honored between the second and third sets of that game for her 2 high jump national championships. She got a couple of rings there. Congratulations to Kenzie Dean. She's now second all time on the LCSE career digs list. She passed her coach, Katie Palmer, for that spot. She had 16 digs on Saturday. Now at 1,593. She's like 200 and some out of first. So she's not going to get there, but still really awesome for Kenzie and very well deserved. And a big final 2 weekends for LC. They take on Multnomah on Friday and Warner Pacific on Saturday on the road. And then their final home weekend and the final regular season weekend comes November 3rd and 4th. They host the number 3 team in the country, Eastern Oregon, on Friday at 6 p.m. And then senior night against College of Idaho on Saturday at 5 p.m. There's right now, I believe, 3 seniors that have said they will not be returning. We still have that COVID year that can mix with things. We know Kenzie Dean will be her last year because she used her COVID year. And there will be a couple others that will get honored on that day. LC needs just 1 win to lock up a spot in the Cascade Conference tournament in those 4 games. But they are also 1 game behind Oregon Tech for 7th place. And that could avoid Eastern Oregon in the first round, though there's a couple other really good teams. So it may not matter. LC Golf, Juan Pablo Quizoboni, I believe that's how you say his last name. If not, I'm sorry, Juan. But he shoots a 66 on Sunday, 6 under, on his way to win the Whitman Confluence Invitational by 3 strokes. It's his first collegiate career win, and it's his final tournament with LC. He's graduating early in the winter, so he will not be there for the spring part of the schedule. The men did end up winning by 8 shots. And then Kyla Curry has been fantastic. That's her 3rd straight top 5 finishes. She finishes in a tie for 3rd. This was a tournament where it was LC and then a bunch of NCAA Division III teams. The women finished 3rd behind George Fox, who was the NCAA Division III defending champion. I appreciate that, Trevin. Having a lot of fun I do the golf and tennis press releases now for LC and doing their previews as well. So speaking of that, the men did lose to Arizona 110-70. That was just a cool experience, I think, for them. That was a jam-packed arena, and they had the lead like 10 to 15 minutes into that game before Arizona got things going, but still pretty cool. They take on Gonzaga a little over a week from now, so another cool experience for them. We have senior night, so we can't go.
We won't be there.
And then the women start their season on Saturday. They travel to Montana State. My preview for the women's team should be up on Friday. I got to get that finished up. So yeah, having a lot of fun doing that. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into our NFL power rankings. It's always fun, and I bring this up every single week because it really is enjoyable for me to put these in and then post them, because I know that none of you know what the other people put. So usually the reactions I get in comments or messages to me are from those that are taking part in our power rankings.
They want to know what we all did. That's funny.
So I have a lot of fun doing this, but our top 5: Kansas City 1, Philadelphia 2, Baltimore 3, San Francisco 4, and Jacksonville is 5th. I say that kind of hesitantly because Eric Watkins, our resident Jaguars fan, and we'll see where Trevin puts them in the comments here in a second. But Eric was the only one not to have them in the top 6. He didn't even have them in the top 10. Eric has the Jaguars 11th in his power rankings. Your thoughts?
They're playing well. I think they could be there, but I'm having to look because I can't remember. I had Jacksonville 6 too, so I mean I had them just outside of it. So
yeah, for a reference, Chris had them the highest at 3. Sean had them at 4. I had them exactly where we put them at 5. You and Zach had them at 6. Excuse me, I missed Harry. Harry was 4th as well, and then Eric had them 11th, and he's wondering 5th. How? You're close. You had them at 6th. Just your thoughts on Jacksonville so far?
I think what they are doing as a ball club is
Eric is yelling at us in the comments.
We can't finish a game to save our life. Listen, you guys are producing a little bit, and I love what this team can do. Travis Etienne, I mean, is a beast. He can run the ball. Christian Kirk has come up big in a couple of games here lately. So, and you've got one of the best offensive linemen to play the game in Brandon Sheriff. So it's possible.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville so far. They had the 2 interesting games where they lost to the Chiefs and then lost to Houston, which was a team that's better than we expected, but got a couple of big wins here coming forward. You look at their schedule, they got a couple games, against San Francisco that could be a bit scary, but they're not playing great. But to me, it's really difficult right now. I think the top 4 have a gap. Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens, 49ers, you put them in whatever ranking you want them in. After that, there's a lot of question marks. And I think for Jacksonville, it helped them that Dolphins lost. The Lions lost. The Browns should have lost, but they were able to get the win. The Bills lost to the Patriots, which really hurt them. So I think Jacksonville kind of just moved up because everyone else got beat. And for a lot of us, we went, all right, well, we got to move them up a little bit, and we'll see where they end up. But I do think that our top 4 kind of have a gap right now. You were kind of surprised Baltimore finished 3rd, though.
Yeah, I didn't even have them 3rd, and so that which tells me there's a couple of our.
4th.
I had them 4th, yes, but one away. But I'm surprised. I'm kind of curious who had them higher up the rankings. Yes, they had a dominant, and it's not by much, but I mean it's got to be somewhat higher.
So I'll say this right now. 7 of us right now are doing the rankings because Kennedy has some personal stuff going on and she is just too busy for this week and most likely next week. So hopefully we'll get her back shortly. But out of the 7 of us, 5 people took Kansas City first. Zach and Eric had them second behind Philadelphia. And then the rest of us that had Kansas City first had Philadelphia second. So all 7 of us had those 2 teams as the top 2. As far as the Ravens go, Harry and I and Sean all had Baltimore at 3. You, Chris, and Zach had them at 4, and Eric hates you and has them at 7. San Francisco was kind of a little bit all over the map. Eric, you, and Zach still have them 3rd. I have them 4th. Sean 5th, and then Harry and Chris have them in 7th. But still, everyone has all of those 4 teams in the top 7. No other team we can say that about right now. But really, when you move around some stuff, like I said, all these different teams lost, and it made things difficult. Cowboys run. I mean, it was against Arizona, and it wasn't the most impressive game. So that's, I think, why Jacksonville's up there. Baltimore's still up there in the top 5. So we get there. Look at some of the bigger movers. Atlanta, which I can't wait to finally put the charts together for where teams moved. I want to do that probably mid-season and then at the end of the year just to kind of show the chart of where they went. Atlanta's going to be all over the map. They moved up 7 spots after probably dropping down 9 or 7 spots the week before. All right, Trevin, you have a good one. Appreciate you hanging out. He's got to get some work done. But Atlanta had dropped down to 24th. They moved back up to 17th. None of us know what's going on with that team. Baltimore moved up 6 spots, and technically Minnesota moving up 5.5 spots because they were tired for 25th, up to 20th. That was a big win for them
How
on
about
Monday.
none of us know what's going on in that division?
How about none of us know what's going on in the National Football League?
That's the bigger. I mean, you got Tampa Bay 3-3, New Orleans 3-4. We know where Carolina's at.
Yes.
But, I mean, but for the other, I mean, it's going to boil down to a coin flip almost at the end of the season to who wins that division.
Yeah, who knows? I'm still picking New Orleans. Who knows? Yeah. Atlanta, top to bottom, is the best team minus a quarterback in that division. Desmond Ridder just finds ways to either lose or nearly lose the game for them.
Loved what he did as a Bearcat, but you got him now in a professional uniform and it is totally just nuts.
We didn't have a lot of big droppers per se. Chargers were the biggest drop at 4 spots. Buffalo dropped 4 as well. Tampa Bay and Green Bay both dropped down 3 spots. The Packers down to 26th in our power rankings. It's just that team is just not figured it out. Too many young pieces, and it's just not working. But let's get to the fun stuff, I think, of the power rankings, and that's the big spreads. And there were more than these 5 teams that had a 9-spot gap. Nobody had more than 9, which I think is the first week that we've had nobody hit double digits as far as spread goes. But these 5, it was really interesting to me because you came in. She's a sad panda because she's a Packers fan and the Packers suck.
I was trying to figure out where panda come from. So
it's just a saying.
Okay.
But you came in and said that you were, the middle of the rankings is so hard to come up with. And it shows because our 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 14th ranked teams in our power rankings all have a gap of 9. In between there is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which the high was 11th and the low was 13th. So we all had them in that spot. But the Dallas Cowboys still have a 9-spot gap. Chris is moving up. He has them up to 15th. Sean has them 6th, but that's still a 9 spot gap. Looking at where the rest of us have them, and we're all over the board. Zach has the Cowboys at 8th. You have them 9th. I'm at 10th, along with Eric. Harry also has them 8th. And then a bit of a gap before Chris. But again, Picard has been very adamant that he does not believe it in Dallas and that they played a weak schedule. And you can't really disagree with that so far.
I didn't move. The only reason why I didn't move them was because they were on a bye week. That was the main meaning behind it.
I'm not saying they moved up or down.
No, but it just I don't understand how some of these guys are thinking that they have played such a weak division. We're talking about Dak Prescott. Dak is just one of those guys that one day he's a unbelievable make things happen to the next week. It's like, dude.
And by the way, sir, you're a liar. You moved the Cowboys up 2 spots this week, or 1 spot.
And I think I'm looking here. It looks
you moved them up 1.
Is it because it's because Buffalo lost, so they moved down. So
you drop people around. So, I'm just teasing you, saying you didn't move them. You moved them. I had to
look at it.
Buffalo was 1, and I'm curious if Eric is still around, as he commented recently. I want his take on why he still thinks Buffalo is a top 5 team. Eric is the highest at 5. Sean has them as low as 14th, and the rest of us are kind of around Sean. Chris and Zach have them 10th. You have them 11th, and then Harry and I have them 12th. So I think most of us agree that Buffalo has slipped outside of the top 10. Eric is really kind of that lone holdout right now, still thinking Buffalo is a good team. And by the way, I did wear your cheese head. You showed that picture after we came back from Lambeau because Sauce Gardner wore the cheese head, and I had a lot of fun doing the same thing. So yeah, I'm curious what Eric thinks of the Buffalo Bills. Of course, Seattle always has that gap, though. Surprisingly, it's not because Chris is too high on them. It's actually Sean that has them up to 7th. Chris has them 9th. Harry at 10. I'm at 11. You're at 13. Zach at 14, and Eric at 16. So we're all over the place with the Seahawks. I just think it's because they're not a sexy team. And the red zone offense, to me, still struggles. Kenneth Walker III is a really good running back, but for whatever reason, he just stalls out when they get into the red zone. So the Seahawks are not going to blow the doors off of teams, but they find ways to win. And I think that's why all of us have them in the top half, but we're kind of fighting the urge to get them in the top 10.
And I think they also I want to say had a major injury this last one. In Wasu, I think it went down, and I think he is done for a time being. So that really is going to hurt this team, especially. But having Adams back, I think, is a huge motivation for this team. And I think if they can keep him on the field and feed off of him, this team's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. Another one that has a big gap is still the Cincinnati Bengals. More people are starting to believe in Cincinnati, but Sean still has them down to 17th. Chris and Eric are the highest on the Bengals at 8. I have them at 9. The rest of you are outside the top 10, as Zach and Harry both have them at 13th, and you have them down at 14th. What do you have to see from Cincinnati over these next couple weeks to really move them up?
Consistency with Joe Mixon running the ball. That's the bottom line. He has not been consistent with that. And Joe Burrow finally getting in that, should be in that groove. I mean, he missed some time last year. He's finally getting that groove back. But I think it boils down to Mr. Mixon running the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Consistency for sure. We'll see what they do out of their bye week and where they go from there. I'm trying to pull up their schedule. Of course, I get the big one with the 49ers. We've already kind of talked about 49ers, Bills, Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars, Colts. That's a tough schedule for Cincinnati. So we'll see where things go. There's not many just automatic wins, I think, on that schedule. Though, let's be fair, there's no automatic wins in the NFL anymore.
Yeah.
It's just the way of the beast. And then finally, the last thing we'll talk about, 9-spot difference. Another team that was on a bye week is my New York Jets. They're now up to 14th in the rankings. Chris hates my team. Green Bay East, as he says, he has them 19th. You're the highest, though, so I want to get your take real quick. You have them 10th, Zach 11th, and then Sean 13th. Eric and Harry had them 14th, and I had them 15th. So why do you have them as a top 10 team?
I have them 11th, but that's okay. You mistyped it. Anyway, I think this team. Yeah, I haven't. Nope, I haven't 10. I had them 11th last week. I was looking at
the wrong thing. I tried to do that to Chris's rankings before. My Facebook Messenger shot up, and all of a sudden I was like, "Why this team won and you dropped them 7 spots?" And I looked, and I was putting his week 3 ranking. So luckily, me making fun of him helped me fix that real quick. So I can't make fun of you too much.
No, you can't do that. You know what this team is going to do over the next few weeks, I think, is what's going to be the telltale. Breece Hall has proved that he can run the ball. He's got to stay healthy. I think the one down point that I'm going to keep bringing up is can Zach Wilson be consistent enough over the next few weeks? And that's what the thing is going to boil down to, especially you look at who they have off the bye week. You guys should be able to come away with a big win this week.
Hopefully. You should be able to beat the Giants.
You should also be able to beat the Chargers.
I agree.
And then also have the Raiders. So, I mean, should be win, win, win. Yeah. And so...
And Eric, Robert does use a Google Doc. He just doesn't delete things, which is fine because then he can go back and look at his old stuff. But
that's what I was doing.
Yeah, he just was looking at old stuff. Chris wants to know why Indy is so high, and I believe what he means is so low in the rankings. Their number is so high. They're 19th in the rankings. Chris was the highest on them at 14. Zach at 18. Harry hit the number right on at 19. And then Eric, I, and Sean at 20. And you have them the worst at 23. So why so high? Or low, whichever way you want to look at it.
Whichever way you want to look at it. For me, it's going to be boiling down to what Minshew does. You know, and with the consistency of him, we've seen, I think Minshew has had his chance at being that guy, but I think he is better to just be a backup.
Yeah.
I mean, come in, clean up games, or fix it there. As you were asking.
What?
I don't know what he's asking.
I'm confused by that. But anyways, or maybe it was Indy that I was questioning when we were doing when I was talking about catching up on stuff. Okay, It's totally fine.
Yeah. So
Chris is throwing us for a loop.
I'm
That's
all
fine.
over it. But I mean, you look at that thing. Jonathan Taylor's got to be on board 100% the entire time. I think that's the big thing for this team if they're going to be consistent. Now, you've got the leading tackler on your guys' team on that team with Zaire Franklin. I think he just keeps it up, and he's going to be a dominant part for that defense. But I don't see them getting anywhere close to playoff team.
No, I just don't believe in that team. They're a team that you really don't want to play.
Right.
Because they can go out and beat you. But just as like you said, as far as making the playoffs, it's tough. They're going to the 8th inning. Arizona holding on to a 4-2 lead. Now 6 outs away from going to the World Series. NBA starts tonight. Yeah. Cool. Denver, defending champions, beat the Lakers 119-107. Boston is your favorite. No, I don't care. Let's quickly get into it because we got 20 minutes left in the show. Football pick'em time. You gained 2 games on me last week. You went 9-1 in high school, 6-4 in college. I went 8-2 in high school and 5-5 in college. You went 15-5. I went 13-7. And thanks for Due for covering. He learned what it's like to make these picks. He went 7-3 in high school, 4-6 in college. So 11-9. So I still have a 7-game lead over you, thanks to a 60-15 record in high school. So pretty happy about that. College, we've slipped a little bit.
I still can't believe I've went 10. You go 10-0, 10-0, 8-2, and then 9-1 is what I've gone. And I still trail you in high school.
Yeah, we're putting up some big numbers. Usually we try to stay away from the blowout games and pick difficult games on our schedule. We've gotten down to the nitty gritty. Idaho has started their state tournament. We try to stay as local as possible. That'll change as we get to the state championship games. And Washington is in their final games. Usually it's non-conference. Usually you just kind of fit in whatever games you can. And that's where we're at. So Grandview is 2-6. They're at Clarkston, 6-2. And it's Clarkston.
All right. Coach Bly does not like to have a bye week. And so this is why we have this. We're picking up a CWAC game. Talked to my buddy Jeff Place over on the other side of the Central Washington. He says Grandview is terrible. Look for Grandview to lose this one by 40 to 50 points. That's quoting him.
Yeah.
So give me Clarkson.
West Valley is 6-2. They're at Pullman, who's 3-5. You said that you guys need Pullman to win, so you guys can get first. I don't see that happening. Give me West Valley.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see it happening either. I'm going to take West Valley, but I'm hoping that Pullman and Champ Milwaukee and Gavin Brown can come up with a big game.
Asotin is 6-2. They're on the road to take on Lynn, Richfield, Sprague, all the other weird names. If you go on Max Preps, it's ridiculous. But that team, LRSVRP ABCDEFG, is 5-3. But it's funny that they are undefeated on the road, but 1-3 at home. It's a home game for them. Asotin's won 4 straight games. Outscored their opponents 121-49. Give me Asotin.
Asotin all day long on that one.
Sunnyside Christian is 4-3. They're at Pomeroy, who is 7-1. Pirates are on a 7-game winning streak, and they've scored at least 40 points in each of those 7 games. Another tougher matchup for the Pirates. I think their league has like 3 or 4 decent teams. Pomeroy's near the top of that. Give me Pomeroy.
Yeah, I'm going to take Pomeroy all day. What they've done this season, point-wise, and listening to our buddy Richie talk about this team, I'm gonna ride on the Pirates team.
Absolutely. All right, last one on in Washington, and I had to dig deep for this and get our old buddy Ty Graham involved. Eisenhower is 2-6. Cheney is 0-8. A fantastic game here. Even better when you look at the stats. Cheney has scored 95 points all year long. Eisenhower, who still won 2 games, have scored 54 points all year long. And Cheney did defeat Eisenhower last year, 28-20. Give me Cheney to get their first and only win this year.
I'm going to go just the opposite. The only reason why is we're looking at Eisenhower and what Cheney is doing. Cheney 3A team, Eisenhower 4A team. I'm going with the bigger school. Give me Eisenhower.
There you go. Let's get to the Idaho State Tournament games. First in the 5A, Mountain View out of the Southern Idaho Conference River Division. They are 6-3, taking on Post Falls out of the Inland Empire League. They are also 6-3. I like what I've seen from the Trojans. Don't obviously know much about Mountain View. Post Falls, their 3 losses came against 2 high-leveled Washington teams, and then Coeur d'Alene, who's really good.
Yes.
So give me Post Falls.
Yeah, and for those same reasons, you play those out of state teams doesn't help in your RPI, especially in Washington. Give me Post Falls in that
one. In the 4A, by the way, can we get a unified playoff format in the state of Idaho?
That would be nice. But...
So many different leagues have bye weeks, and the top 4 seeds get there, but it's not seeded 1 through 12. It's like the top seed in each section gets a bye, and then so when you're looking at seeds, like it's 2A versus 3B, and it's a mess. 4A, you just get seeded, and it's great. The 11 seed Bonneville, who's 4-5, from the High Country Conference, is taking on the 6 seed Sandpoint, who's 6-3 out of the Inland Empire League. Bonneville's lost 4 of the last 5. Sandpoint's won their last 5. Give me Sandpoint.
Yeah, IEL a little bit more dominant than the High Country League. Give me Sandpoint.
And you go to the Class 1A Division 1. Is somebody going crazy on the piano outside? Don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but they're going ballistic out there. I don't know how this team made the playoffs. Again, Idaho, we need to look at how we work these things out, and maybe we don't have to guarantee teams from different leagues, please. Idaho City from the Western Idaho Conference is 2-5, and they're in the playoffs against Kamei, who is 7-1 from the White Pine League. Only loss was against Logos. Cubs should dominate.
Yeah, it's not even going to be a matchup. Give me Kamei.
And then Potlatch from the White Pine League taking on Valley from the Snake River Conference. Potlatch 6-2, Valley 5-4. I just go from what they did in their final week of the regular season. Potlatch was shut out by Kamei in that big matchup we were looking at. They lost that one 28-0. Valley upset Notice, who's one of the top teams in the Class 1A D1 ranks. They won that game 66-32. So give me Valley.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other direction. I'm taking Potlatch just because they have to have a bounce back game from losing there to Kamei. So give me Potlatch. Give me the Loggers.
So we got is that our first game different? Second game different we have in high school. And then finally, Class 1A Division 2, Lewis County out of the White Pine League is 4-4. They take on Tri-Valley, who is 6-2 out of the Long Pin Conference. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Tri-Valley. We took them. You had them a few weeks ago. I took them. They ended up coming away with a win. I'm going to stay with them over Lewis County.
I'm going to go with Lewis County here. They played Tri-Valley earlier this year on the road, which is what is the case in this game. Back on October 6th, Tri-Valley won that game 62-56, really close game. Lewis County made the playoffs last year and struggled, lost to Garden Valley 47-8. So I think they get a little bit of revenge here, and Lewis County is able to get a playoff victory. So we got 3 different in high school. Let's see what happens in college. Again, I wanted to pick some of these Tuesday games. It did not work. And by the way, Eric, Idaho City is out of the Western Idaho Conference, which they get 2 spots in. It's a 14 conference. It's kind of like what Lewiston is in 5A. Notice is the top team, of course. They're 5-2 overall, 3-0 in league. Idaho City went 2-5, but they went 2-1 in league play. And that is how they got into the playoffs. Rimrock was 2-6, 1-2 in league play, and then Wilder never won a game. It's just a bad conference outside of Notice, for sure. All right, let's get back into the college. So Thursday, we get some fun ones. Syracuse, who is 4-3, is at Virginia Tech, who is 3-4. The Hokies are a 3-point favorite. Who do you got?
I'm going to take the Orangemen. I need to try to. I told you earlier, I got to try to make up some games. So I'm taking Syracuse.
I take Virginia Tech. Syracuse lost their last 3 games and have been outscored 112-24. So give me Virginia Tech. really good one here, and kind of a flashback to last week when we had Georgia State as well, and I think I picked against them and it hurt. Georgia State 6-1 at Georgia Southern, who is 5-2. Georgia Southern is a 1.5-point favorite. Again, I'm pretty sure I picked against Georgia State last week and got that one in correct. Marcus Carroll for that team, the halfback, 169 carries for 852 yards and 10 touchdowns on the year. Give me Georgia State.
Yeah, I'm going to take the opposite. I'm going to go Georgia Southern just because there's just a small favorite at home.
Mm-hmm. On Friday, Florida Atlantic's 3-4. They're at Charlotte, who is 2-5. FAU's a 4-point favorite. Give me Florida Atlantic. Charlotte has only scored 102 points all year.
Florida Atlantic hurt me a couple weeks ago, so I'm going to go with FAU again. See if we can bounce back and get some there.
Get to the Saturday games and get to some actually ranked opponents. Good one in the Pac-12. Number 8 Oregon, 6-1 on the year, is a 7-point favorite on the road at number 13 Utah, who's also 6-1. Two really good defenses. But I think this is going to be a letdown game for Utah, coming off the high of beating USC for the 3rd straight year. I think Oregon takes care of business. Give me the Ducks.
I'm taking the Ducks, but knowing that Coach Lanning has made some silly play calls over the last couple of weeks, I hope he does not do that in this close matchup on the road. I'm going to go Oregon, but I think it's going to be closer than the 7 points.
A bigger spread than I usually pick for these, but there really wasn't a ton to pick on it. It's also just a fun rivalry game. So there could be an upset here, but number 1, Georgia, who's 7-0, is against Florida, who is 5-2. Give me Georgia. Wild things can happen with this rivalry game. I just don't see it happening.
Not in this one. Georgia's holding defense is holding teams to just 91 yards rushing, while Florida is rushing for 141 yards per game average. So be interesting. But if I picked against Georgia, I would never hear the end of it. So give me the Bulldogs.
All right, speed through the rest of these. Number 20, Duke is 5-2. They're at number 18, Louisville, who's 6-1. Louisville, a 4-point favorite. Give me the Cardinals.
I think this might be the game of the week. So give me Louisville in this one.
Number 21, Tennessee, who's 5-2, is at Kentucky, who is also 5-2. Could be another upset with the home team and decent rivalry there. But Tennessee's a 3.5-point favorite, and I'm taking the Vols.
Volunteers all the way on this one.
Iowa State. The Cyclones are 4-3. They're at Baylor, who's 3-4. Iowa State's a 2.5-point favorite. Give me the Cyclones.
Yeah, I don't think Baylor is the team that have been in the past. Give me Iowa State.
Wyoming, Georgia's team is 5-2. We picked against them a couple of weeks ago. He made fun of us, and he turned out to be correct. They are at the Smurf turf of Boise State, who's only 3-4. Boise State is still a 5-point favorite. We picked against them. George made fun of us, so I've learned my lesson. Give me Boise State.
I so wanted to type in the Cowboys, and with that, you said it. It is on the blue turf. It's not the Inferno. It's the Smurf turf. Give me BSU, and they're averaging over 400 yards per game.
And then finally, Big Sky action. I wish Trevin didn't have to get back to work or get his take on this. He is the Idaho beat reporter as well for the Lewiston Tribune. Montana State is 6-1. They are up there at the tipped over beer can. That is the Kibbe Dome. Idaho 5-2 on the year. Give me the Vandals here.
Had a great conversation last week with Lynn Kelly. He is a Bobcat alum at the Clarkson game the other day.
So
against Sacramento.
Totally not biased.
Yeah. And last week, that was my game of the week last week. And they came out and just kind of handled Sacramento State. I think they handle Idaho in this one. Give me the Bobcats.
There you go. 3 different in high school, 3 different in college. And as Robert said before the show started, if he can go 6-0 in those, he'll only be 1 game back. I don't see that happening. Just like I don't see me catching up in the NFL standings anytime soon. All right, let's get into the Blitz. Some quick hit opinions and quick weekly stories. What do you got?
All right, so let's do the winter or the fall golf league PGA. They were over in China at the Zozo. Colin Morikawa wins that one, shooting 14 under, and 4 Americans on the top of the leaderboard in that one. Joel Damon finished tied for 59th at +6. So good turnout with there. They do have a tournament this weekend. It's the next weekend, week off, Worldwide Technology Championship in Cabo San Lucas. And then for Eric, I'm doing this for Eric because it is the finals. It was the finals. The Live team title goes to the Crushers, Bryson DeChambeau's team. They end up winning by 2 strokes over the Range Goats.
See, at least the Range Goats is a cool name. The Crushers is a dumb name.
And then you get Tyler Guguk won the individual points title this season, but had to throw in a little Live golf for Eric.
Yeah, you didn't really have to, but you did. NASCAR stuff happened. I've really not gotten into. I don't like the new cars for NASCAR.
Right.
I just they don't run well on short tracks, and that's my favorite style of racing. And Homestead is a boring racetrack, though. Kyle Larson, I did see, ran into the barrels, so that was fantastic. But yeah, they got 2 races left. Martinsville will be fun next week, but not much else going on. Did you watch the Strike Derby?
I got through the first of the quarterfinals. So Kyle Troop got upset. The ball was very lost on the one. He dropped off. Ended up beating the local boy, Marshall Kent.
Phillies have stolen your catchphrase.
Yeah, I know. That's not
you
nice.
still want to root for this team? They stole your refuse to lose.
They're behind by 2 now.
They need to refuse.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting few days, I guess.
There you go. Again, Robert and I will both be at Lewiston High School on Saturday to take part in the Class 1A Division II volleyball state tournament. All games all day on Saturday. You can listen to me do play-by-play on NFHS, or if you're in the area and you want to listen to Robert do the PA, you can do that as well. And as Robert did say, the Class 1A Division I state tournament will be over here at the P1FCU Activity Center. So volleyball is all over the place. State tournaments are getting started in Idaho. Football, Washington is about a week away. And don't forget, one more programming note, we will not be on at our normal time next week, as Halloween lands on Tuesday and we want to spend some time with the kiddos. So we will be going live shortly after Monday Night Football. We'll go for about an hour. Hour is the goal. If we get into some fun conversations, we might go a little bit longer. But the hour mark is kind of what we're shooting for. So that'll be a really fun show, I think. Just a little different feel, because that is when we'll start getting the power rankings turned into me, and we can just kind of discuss the power rankings as they're coming in and kind of give you a preview of that article. I guess it's an article or post, I guess, when I post the full 32 team power rankings from the 7 of us on Tuesday morning. So a lot of football talk. Of course, we'll still do our pick'ems. We might sneak in a sports related draft if we feel like it. With an hour, it might be a little tough, but sports related drafts are always fun. So we might do a condensed version,
modified version
of the sports related draft. Congratulations to Haley for being the see if I can do the 6th different winner in our sports related draft history. We've done
a ton.
Where are we at? That is our 73rd overall sports related draft, but you have to remember the first 10 were without judges. So I won all 10 of those.
I got screwed.
So I now have 34 wins. Robert has 20. Denny Grubb has 1. Eric Watkins has 1. David Doofenberg has 1. And Haley Moses has 1. And she does take her bow. Do you have any games that you're really looking forward to this weekend?
Now that I'm doing volleyball, it's going to take away from a little bit of my football watching, but I would love to say Oregon and Utah. I think Oregon runs away with it. I'm actually going to take a 12:30 ESPN game. The Louisville Duke game intrigues me a lot.
Okay. Georgia Florida to me, that's just a fun rivalry. But I'm with you. While I would like to watch that game, we will be knee deep into volleyball at that point. So not a lot of college football watching for us on Saturday, which kind of works with our 1 hour show on Monday. We can focus on the NFL. But speaking of the NFL, is there an NFL game that you're looking forward to next week? By the way, on the schedule, it's not that great.
Not on the schedule. Now, remember, I told you this is one that I turned down the opportunity to go to Arizona and watch this game with a friend of mine in Arizona. I wish I would go there, but for me, Chris hits it on the head. I am going to take Cincinnati and 49ers as my game to watch this week.
And he nailed it for me too. To me, Cleveland and Seattle are two teams that I'm kind of on the fence on whether I believe they're a playoff contender or not. Big game for both of them. They're both 4-2. They're both having very good years, but whether I really believe in that team is yet to be determined. Two pretty good defenses. Run games will be really fun to watch. Will Watson be back? We will see. So very, very interesting to kind of see how that goes. By the way, we didn't talk about that. We have 10 seconds now, but Deshaun Watson goes out for concussion protocol, gets cleared, and they go, nah, we don't need you. Just weird.
Stefanchik, he just wanted to protect his franchise player, and he said that a few times in his press conference. So just protecting his franchise player. Wouldn't you want him out there?
By the way, are we supposed to be able to flex out these Sunday night games by now?
I would think certainly.
Why are we doing the Bears and the Chargers on Sunday Night Football? How did that not get flexed out?
I have no idea.
It's a complete mess up by the NFL. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the R&R Sports Report. We appreciate all the comments. We had a lot today. You guys make the show so much more fun, and the 2 hours just fly on by. Keep it up. Have a lot of fun with that. Don't forget Monday. Watch Monday Night Football. Loser fires our coach. There you go. I thought it was earlier now. I thought they had changed that, but maybe I was wrong. Eric says not until week 12, but it's an ugly Sunday Night Football game. But yeah, watch the Raiders and the Lions. Try not to fall asleep. And then right after that, we'll be on for about an hour. We will not be on lcwarriorradio.com because we're not on our local time. I don't want to mess around with other shows' schedules. So if you're listening to us on there, go follow us on our Facebook and YouTube pages and watch us on Monday. We'll be back after that, our regularly scheduled time. But until then, that's Robert. I'm Randy. This is the R&R Sports Report. And until Monday night, we are out.